that is the only family member that he would like added.
Can you spell his name one more time?
Yes, the first name is Shazman, S-H-A-Z, M as in Michael, A-N as in Nancy.
And I'm sorry, you said he lives where?
Seattle, Washington, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay.
Your Honor, I am moving to strike on page 19 of the pre-sentence investigation, the third paragraph on that page that begins with upon questioning.
You're going to have to
Yes, Your Honor.
wait till I get to the actual. And I'm sorry, what page did you say?
Yes, Your Honor, page 19. It says page 19 at the bottom.
I see what you mean.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. The third paragraph, the defense moves to strike that paragraph. If the court goes to page 18, the court can see that that section is related to employment. That paragraph that I'm seeking to strike upon questioning relates to questioning done by the MDOC agent to a former employer of Dr. Aejaz. It's unrelated to his employment history. It's seeking if he ever had any complaints filed against him, Your Honor. That's not proper for the purpose of employment history in a pre-sentence investigation report. So the defense moves to strike that paragraph.
Your Honor, people don't have an objection to that.
All right, so we will strike that paragraph.
Thank you. Your Honor, there's one additional paragraph on page 2 of the pre-sentence investigation, the first paragraph of recommendation narrative. Yes. Yep. The defense is seeking to strike two sentences, the sentence beginning with, however it is contended, to the end of that paragraph, Your Honor. That is the MDOC agent's opinion as to Dr. Aejaz. That is not proper to include the agent's opinion about the offenses or Dr. Aejaz himself in the recommendation narrative. That is simply explaining why the recommendation is being made, so the defense moves to strike those two sentences.
Yeah, Your Honor, people think it's appropriate because that recommendation is based on information that the investigator located. I think that that's an appropriate sentence to keep because it is the reasoning for what the recommendation is and why.
I agree. I'm not going to strike that.
Thank you, Your Honor. The final point for the defense is on the scoring. On case number 25-293405-FC, on count 1 and count 12, Your Honor, OV4 is scored at 10 points for psychological harm. The defense position is that OV4 should be scored at 0. There has been no indication for either of those two offenses that there was any psychological harm. I do believe that we have the agreement of the prosecution that there has been no indication that there was psychological harm, and therefore OV4 should be scored at 0.
Okay, and this is for the FC case?
Yes, Your Honor. The FC case counts 1 and 12, which are the 2 pages that are scored in the PSI packet. Should be the last 2 pages of your packet, Your Honor.
Well, I'm trying to get there. It's an extremely long PSI.
It is, Your Honor.
side, what's the prosecution's position with respect to OB4?
Your Honor, with respect to OB4 in the FC case, we actually agree. I don't believe that there's any record evidence that would support scoring that OB. Thankfully, the child victim in that case was unconscious at the time that she was assaulted, and we don't have any information to suggest that she has independent recollection of what happened to her.
All right. So that changes the total OB to 40, I believe.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Judge.
Does the level stay the same?
I believe it does, Your Honor, but I am confirming. Yes, Your Honor, it will remain the same.
Does it change the guideline range?
I do not believe so, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Very well.
Thank you, Your Honor. That is all for the defense.
Thanks, Judge. Your Honor, the people have also had an opportunity to review the PSI. We have no additions, deletions, or corrections to make other than those that have already been made today. When the court is prepared, there are some victims who wish to make their impact statements, and the people would reserve allocution for after that.
Very well. They may
Okay.
come
Your Honor, the
forward.
defense would also like to allocate after these.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you state your name, please?
Madison Lucido. Forgive me, my voice might shake.
It's quite all right. Take your time.
My name is Madison Lucido. I'm 24 years old. I would say my life has looked pretty simple and typical of a young woman growing up in Michigan. I would hang out with my friends, attend sporting events, go to movies, concerts, travel, you name it, I was there. I've always had an itch for adventure and spontaneity, a social butterfly, if you will. I've always faced life with more of a go-with-the-flow approach, and I have had a hard time remembering what it was like to be so carefree, not worried, threatened, nervous, but most importantly, I did not move through life afraid of what tomorrow may bring. I have struggled with my mental health and have faced many hardships in my life that no one my age should ever have to endure. Nothing could have prepared me for what was coming. Imagine a moment in your life where it feels like for once everything is working out, all of the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, the universe is on your side. Better yet, imagine you are feeling these feelings I'm describing to you, adrenaline and overpowering joy, like a runner's high when you beat your record time while running. Now take those intense feelings and metaphorically for a moment imagine you actually are running. And then somebody pulls the road from beneath your feet. The moment at which this happens, you are running pretty fast, making the fall all the more painful and devastating to you, your body, your mind, and your overall well-being. This fall takes away all of the emotions I previously described and replaces them with something different. Fear. That was what I felt when I got the call that a crime had been committed against me. Now I know this is unfair. Some people don't have the imagination to create that whole picture in their head and experience it the way other people may have. Sometimes the imagery is just not as impactful, but the words are. I'll give some examples. I was going about my normal day-to-day life working at my job when I got that call. My whole body went rigid, my chest collapsed in on itself, the room started spinning, my face grew increasingly hot. Many of you would have described this as a panic attack. What I truly believed in that moment was that I was dying. And there is some truth to that statement, but I'll come back to that. From then on, I struggled with many different physical and mental symptoms that I still experience to this day. I had trouble sleeping, and when I did, I would have endless nightmares about being in danger. I missed work frequently, often from being up until 4 a.m. the night before crying, holding on to myself for dear life. Crying was a daily occurrence. I was lucky if I made it through the whole day without crying at least 4 times. When I only cried once a day, I felt truly blessed. I began scratching at my skin obsessively, the stress causing me to break out in rashes around my eyes and on my chest. My hair was falling out, and my appetite was non-existent. I was always nauseous from the amount of anxiety that was in my body. My hands and legs would shake, sometimes for 30 minutes at a time. I began to see myself as dirty, and began compulsively washing my hands to combat the feelings and hopefully subside the pain I was feeling. I remember the first time I went shopping after all of this happened. I was dizzy. My vision went blurry. My friend wanted to go into the changing rooms. While she was excitedly picking out clothes to try on without a care in the world, I was watching our surroundings. Is that person a threat? Is that person going to harm me in some way? They probably are. You are in danger. You are in danger, you need to go. You're going to die, you need to get out. These were the thoughts that would plague me whenever I was in public. Buying clothes with friends, grocery shopping, movies, a night out having drinks. All too dangerous now. Against the rules, I can't go, something bad will happen. Public restrooms were my own personal hell. I'm lucky I didn't get many bladder infections from how long I would have to hold my pee in at a time. Too afraid someone will take advantage of me in a vulnerable position like they once had. I began to see this as my fault. I was not careful enough, not smart enough. I was gross, and it was painful to think about. I felt tainted and damaged, like it was contagious, and I should avoid being around others, because they too might catch this case of bad luck and experience the pain that I was in. So I isolated myself in my room. The social butterfly had its wings ripped off. My days consisted of crying, of course, and when I wasn't, I was staring at the walls of my rooms for hours, sometimes for such a long period of time that I would watch the sun come and go, darkness filling my room and blanketing me further in my depression. I had no interest living life anymore. It was like I was experiencing life in a limbo state. I was not living, I was not dead, I was in a progressive purgatory. That's what made all of this so hard. I was mourning the person I once was, the life I previously possessed. It is gone, and I no longer have control over my choice to get it back. What happened to me has had a lasting impact on my life, and I'm still healing and trying to regain a sense of trust and safety in the world around me. My hope is that the decision made today reflects the seriousness of what I've been through and helps me move forward. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Good morning. Would you state your name, please?
My name's Lauren Deverell. This whole situation has made me feel like an object that everyone is looking at, waiting to crack and break. Feels like I'm trapped in a documentary that I never agreed to be a part of, one that plays endlessly with no pause, no rewind, no escape. Feel disconnected from myself, like I'm standing on the outside looking in at a life I no longer control. This has affected me the most in public situations. Something as basic as using a public restroom now fills me with fear. I avoid it until it's unbearable, and when I absolutely have to go, I'm terrified the entire time. Can't even try on clothes in a store anymore because of the fear of being recorded is always in the back of my mind. Now I buy clothes, take them home, and return them if they don't fit. It's frustrating, draining, and unfair. Dating has also been a nightmare. It's hard to let people in. I have trust issues, and I hate telling people about the case because of the way I feel they will look at me. Since the beginning, I've lived with the constant fear that the videos might be released, that they could resurface one day and destroy any future I try to build. I've had to start therapy just to cope, and while it's helping, it's been incredibly costly for me and my family. I've lost sleep, and the stress has given me migraines so severe that they've taken over my life. I don't like being on medication, but I don't have the luxury of avoiding it anymore. The migraines come with nausea and vomiting, and once I even passed out during clinicals for my nursing program because of them. I've had to cut back my work hours, losing a significant portion of my income. School has become another challenge. My program requires me to maintain a specific GPA to stay enrolled. I've always excelled academically, so watching myself struggle, watching something I've worked so hard for slip through my fingers, has taken a big toll on me as well. I think anyone can see that Mr. Aejaz deserves the maximum sentence the court allows. He has altered the lives of every single victim he chose to violate. He stole our sense of safety, our trust, and pieces of our futures. No one is safe around him. I hope that in prison he feels even a fraction of the fear, the vulnerability, and the instability that we now have to live with every single day because of him.
Thank you. Good morning. State your name, please?
Dia Tucker. Do you want me to spell that?
Go ahead.
It's DIYA and then THAKUR. Thank you. On October 11th, 2024, I was asked to come in by an investigator. At a meeting, I was shown a few screen grabs from a video. Having to look at these images and decipher whether that was me or potentially one of my previous students was sickening. My parents and I were able to identify me in these images. Seeing screen grabs of myself in a vulnerable moment that I thought I was alone and that I thought I was safe has forever changed me. One of the main identifiers was a hairstyle I commonly wore to work. 2 Dutch braids. Even the thought of me wearing this hairstyle now makes me upset and angry that Oumair ruined this among many other things for me. Ever since being identified, I felt endless amounts of fear, anxiety, and anger. I felt ashamed that after my work shift that day, I decided to change out of my swimsuit into dry clothes in a changing room instead of a bathroom. I have so much regret for something that is not my fault nor my doing. I did not consent to being recorded and have felt and will continue to feel violated. I have been so scared to use any public restroom or fitting room, I have chosen to walk home 20 minutes and miss a class because I was too scared to use the bathrooms on my college campus. My grades and my academic abilities have been impacted by this case. I am so scared of seeing a male doctor now because of the idea that I could get a doctor like Oumair. As a result of this fear, I'm actively experiencing health concerns. I've been in therapy for over a year now and have been diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety disorder, and panic attacks. I've had to skip classes, plans, and work due to these panic attacks. I've lost so many nights of sleep due to the nightmares of being recorded by this man again. I have not been able to sleep a full night without waking up at least once. Most nights, I would sleep 4 hours at most due to the endless nightmares and anxiety. The amount of stress I have endured trying to find the courage to tell my college professors that I have to be absent from class due to a legal case that I'm involved in. The amount of stress and time I have put into writing this and other documents for the legal case has cost me so much and has taken away my time from doing my school and my work assignments. I'm also missing a class to be here right now. Another impact is the amount of hate I have developed for my first workplace. That building was once my safe place. Oumair took that away from me. Every positive memory that I have from that building is now skewed. I was teaching children a critical life-saving skill of swimming. All I wanted to do was help children. This monster took advantage of me, the other victims and children, and so many other individuals. He took my sense of trust and my feeling of safety. The amount of anxiety I have and will continue to endure because of your choices can never be properly conveyed through words, and I have been absent from so many classes because I can't see straight and my hands won't stop shaking. I have missed out on days of work because I get apprehensive at the idea of people watching me. I have skipped plans with friends due to being so anxious that leaving my room feels like a chore. My hair is thinned and I am so scared most days. You may not remember my face, nor my name, but you will forever remember that me and these other women are the reason why you're locked up in a jail cell. I get to walk away and have freedom while you're locked in a room for years. I can live freely knowing that you cannot record any more individuals or violate anyone anymore. The cameras are all on you now. I refuse to be scared by you anymore. I will learn and grow from this experience. I will not be held back. I want to educate children, and I will not think of you when I'm in a fitting room. I will not think of you. When I'm living my everyday life, I will not think of you. Your Honor, I'm asking that you consider every victim and the impacts we all have endured when determining the length of sentence when sentencing this monster. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
State your name, please.
Morgan Dean.
Go ahead, Ms. Dean.
Okay. Wow, I told myself I'd pull my shit together. All right. MLF _ CLD _ SWM _ VID. MILF, meaning mother, I'd like to fuck. Child. CLD, meaning child, as in my then 2-year-old son. SWM, as in we were in a changing room at Goldfish Swim School after my son's swim class. VID, meaning not just a picture, but a whole video that this waste of space on Earth kept categorizing kept categorized on his hard drives to go back and watch as many times as he wanted, while he jacked off and got released from watching myself and my 2-year-old son change in a changing room. So stop looking at the ground, you coward. Look up and look me in the eye as I address you, because you had that audacity when you decided to wander into Goldfish Swim School, turn on a camera, place it upwards looking into that 2-foot space that was at the bottom of those changing rooms, and then sit there for God knows how long just recording the moms, parents, dads, aunts, uncles, grandmas, and their kids as their kids were literally changing out of their wet swimsuits. So look at me when I speak to you. If you have any kind of that courage or that sense of being the greatest thing that's ever happened and that you will never get caught and you will never do any wrong. Or you can stare at the ground and twiddle your thumbs because you know that you're done. So I hope you enjoyed whatever it was that made you get off to kids changing in a changing room. Because I will do everything in my power, and you've pissed off the wrong mom. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that the only thing you'll ever get to see again outside of your memory of all of these sick, nasty videos, pictures, and whatever else you had are the memory of the men you're now stuck in prison with. I hope you are treated by those men as an object, like you chose to regard my son and I and the other women that were brave enough to stand up here and tell this judge how awful you have made their lives. And these people were just working, and I was just there with my son. And to all the other parents and the other employees who did not feel like they were safe enough to come stand in the same room as you. You are a waste of the air that I breathe, an absolute embarrassment to anyone and everyone who had the displeasure of knowing you. It's sad that you couldn't just walk up to a woman and ask for a nudie pic. Rather, you're such a creepy weirdo that you had to buy cameras to get pictures and videos of beautiful women and their amazing children. The lack of confidence you have, I'm not shocked about. I wouldn't even think twice about swiping left on the sorry, sad excuse of a man you are. But don't worry, your buddies in prison will make sure that you're reminded of how pathetic you are every time they see you crawling around, because standing up will be too painful. And if you ever end up in that infirmary that they have in prison, I pray that those nurses and doctors treat you at the same way that you did to your patients, or really vulnerable, drugged up rag dolls that you sexually assaulted or took videos or pictures of, rather than giving them actual medical care as a doctor that you took the oath to take care of. And I get upset about that because I'm a medical provider as well, and it is disgusting that any medical provider had the audacity to do that to people who were just trying to feel better and get better. Of course, these medical professionals, they won't sexually assault you or take nasty, vile pictures of you because you know they took an oath that I bet they have the integrity to uphold, unlike yourself. So I hope that they give you the care that you deserve. When you get taken there for your injuries, you know, the ones that make you feel like a worthless, helpless human being, like I felt like for a year now, that you in fact did not ask for, were just brought upon you without your consent. Yes, those injuries, I hope they pretend like they gave you some meds, but let you just sit there in pain, because you absolutely deserve that. Apparently, at least 800 plus times over from the stats that I've read in the news, that I'm traumatized by every single time I see your face in the news or something about you in the news regarding anything to do with any of this. The day I had to identify myself, Your Honor, and my son was the hardest day of my entire life. The evening prior, while at work at a high school, as a high school athletic trainer in Rochester Community Schools, in the community where the Goldfish Swim School resides, I got the call from Sergeant Allen telling me that they think they have identified me in one of the videos that was taken of my son and I at Goldfish Swim School. In the middle of a varsity basketball game, I collapsed in the hallway, and my school resource officer, who I had never actually gotten to speak to yet because he was new, had to help me get back on my feet and help me take just a few minutes and then pull my shit together to get back in and do the job that I promised to do for my student athletes, which is just to keep them healthy and safe. I think this moment was the worst of all because I felt completely alone, and that although I keep other people's kids safe, I realized that in that moment that I could not keep my own son safe from an evil, sadistic, narcissistic pedophile like this guy. Because I knew in my gut that I was going to be positively identifying myself the next day. And those were 12 hours of absolute hell. After identifying myself, my world spun out of control. I was seeing black, not red, but black, because the rage and anger that I was feeling was something that I had never felt in my entire life. Over the next few weeks, I was having nightmares that would wake me up with me screaming and sweating uncontrollably. I started to have panic attacks randomly throughout the day. I couldn't go to stores, and I was only doing online shopping for things like groceries because I was afraid that every person that looked at me might have had a camera. I couldn't go into changing rooms. I couldn't even change at work into game day clothes from just practice and taping clothes, or from just regular clothes into even warm clothes outside for spring sports. I was spending all hours trying to find somewhere that I felt safe to change in my school. In the women's coach's office, in a locker room, there are 2 doors that would usually close me off from every other person while I change. I was so comfortable there, I even pumped while I was breastfeeding. And now this was somewhere that was not my own bathroom. It was not my own home or my locked bedroom in my own home with the door shut and locked, even though I was just there with my husband and my son. I was paranoid and I was anxious, and working with my patients became extremely difficult and almost impossible. To give my student athletes, who are my patients, the very best care that I had given for so many years, I would call into work all the time because driving there made me nervous, and I was worried that I would run into a parent of Indian or Middle Eastern descent, which is many parents and many doctors and medical professionals that I work with daily. They are of that descent. I was worried that every time I saw them, they were going to have a camera recording me, which I know is completely irrational, but my brain could not turn off. The immediate fear that I felt when I would see any person with those racial backgrounds walking through my school, or even in the stands at games where I had to be for work, or even if they were coming to speak to me about one of their own children, or the doctors with my students under their care, everything was terrifying. Every single time. I was diagnosed with acute post-traumatic stress disorder and severe anxiety. I began seeing a sexual assault specialized therapist. I was put on numerous medications to help me just get through the day and to get me through the workday, and just try multiple medications to help me sleep for more than an hour or 2 at night. So I was somewhat able to take care of my toddler, the toddler that he recorded in the changing room, in the morning when I would wake up with him at 6 a.m. Due to the lack of sleep and just pure panic 100% of the time, my family life was affected greatly. My incredible husband was by my side and supportive every time, but my son, who didn't know any better, was affected so much that he started to have changes in his behavior and started to have small panic attacks that would show up with extreme anxiety when I would start crying. Every time I cried, my son cried, and then he would have a panic attack and a meltdown. Usually this is normal for a 4-year-old, but it would only happen when I'd be sitting on the floor sobbing, because all of a sudden I would start panicking and be worried that somebody was looking in my house windows. My toddler, he has no idea what's going on. And I'll do everything in my power to protect him from all of this until he's at the age where he can just kind of understand the magnitude and the severity of all this bullshit and fucked up, horrible, evil things that this guy did. And unfortunately, My son had to be involved, and so did I. But the reason that I'm here today, and the reason why I'm making sure that someone is here to speak for the other parents that were affected and the other kids that were affected, that either did not want to identify themselves in those videos or were unable to put into words what they're feeling about this horrific situation. I'm here representing them today. The day that I have to talk to my son about this, I want my son to know that I did everything I could to fight for justice and make sure that this guy, this absolute waste of space and the waste of the air that I breathe, goes to prison for the rest of his life, and he gets the treatment that he deserves every single day that he's there. I'm here to make sure that my student athletes, who I always preach to about trust, openness, and prioritizing mental health, or anything else that's on their mind, can see that their athletic trainer be vulnerable, confident, and be willing to put everything on the line, including possibly how others see me, both personally and professionally. I'm here to make sure that the vulnerable people affected in any part of this case from what this guy did know that they are not alone and they're not a victim. They're just unfortunately involved in this horrible situation. And although I know it will be hard for all of us to process this and to be able to function at all like we did before the days of all of this starting, this is hard because every person involved didn't even know that they were involved until they had to identify themselves in these videos and pictures. On the extensive network of hard drives and other devices that all of our images were meticulously categorized and stored on. To my family, thank you for helping me work through this, even on the hardest days when I know that being around me was possibly unbearable. Thank you for helping me keep this about as quiet as possible while I worked through it, because I was so embarrassed and I didn't even know how I was supposed to tell people that I was involved in this because I was trying to process it myself. So, Your Honor, this man is never going to change. Unfortunately, he could care less that what any of us have to say here today, because he really thought that he would never get caught. He did these horrible, horrible things for years and years and thought that he was going to live forever on the outside with pictures and videos of unknowing and unconsenting adults, and most importantly, children that can't even comprehend the enormity of the consequences of this guy's actions. I hope that you give him the absolute maximum sentence on every single count that he is convicted of. With that, I'm sure what happened to him when he was a kid that fucked him up bad enough that he even had these urges to take these videos and pictures, from a clinical medical professional standpoint, and someone who extensively works with the DSM-5, the diagnostic tool to understand and diagnose mental health disorder, this guy will never change. He will never do anything different if he is given the chance to be free. He will never not be a sneaky, creepy predator of the most vulnerable people in the world. He will never be able to control his urges if given access to any kind of electronic devices ever for the rest of his life. If he's given anything less than a maximum sentences for every single count, it will be an extreme injustice to those of us who have to sit here and deal with this nightmare over and over the past couple of years. What he did will affect every single one of us for the rest of our lives. He deserves to feel that pain every single day while he rots in prison until the day that he dies. And that's all. Thank you.
Your Honor, as far as allocution goes from the people, there's nothing that we could possibly say that would hold a candle to what the victims have already expressed. The defendant is here today because of the bravery of these victims in coming forward, and because of a stellar investigation by law enforcement that allowed those victims to be identified. And thankfully, their bravery outshines the defendant's own depravity. For sentencing, the people ask that the court follows the recommendation in the FH case. Notably, in the FH case, the recommendation is to exceed the guidelines on all counts, giving the defendant the maximum possible penalty pursuant to People v. Tanner. So we agree with this recommendation and ask the court to follow it, while also abiding by its Cobb's agreement with the defendant to abstain from consecutive sentencing. On the FC case, the people are requesting a sentence of 40 to 60 years. Counts 1 and 12 in that case carry a mandatory minimum sentence of 25 years each. And as we noted in the people's sentencing memo, Counts 1 through 4 and counts 12 through 15 are eligible for consecutive sentencing at the court's discretion. Now, we are asking the court to abide by its Cobb's agreement with the defense to abstain from consecutive sentencing in that case as well. However, this is not a case in which a minimum of any kind would be appropriate. The defendant's conduct was not minimal by any measure. And although this case, the FC case, involved just a single identified victim, she was a child, 7 years old, and the defendant's acts against her were repetitive and obsessive in their nature. The defendant recorded her while using the bathroom. He sexually assaulted her while she was asleep in her own bed, in her own home, and then he kept trophies by recording those acts. The defendant is an abuser and a predator. Again, he sexually assaulted a child just 7 years of age in her own home while she was asleep, and he did this multiple times while he was a guest and a trusted adult in her life. And then he kept trophies of his abuse by recording the acts on video. So he's not only a predator, but he's a thief, because he's stolen these people's innocence, their privacy, and obviously their peace of mind. His conduct is far beyond the factors taken into account by both statutory language and by the sentencing guidelines. And his conduct across Oakland County and beyond is so severe and so indicative of almost a pathological need to record and abuse defenseless people that a sentence above the minimum is not only appropriate but necessary. As we stated in the People's Sentencing Memorandum, justice requires a higher sentence. So we would ask for 40 to 60 years on the FC case.
Thank you, Your Honor. Very briefly, as this court is aware, there is pending civil litigation related to the charges in this case, as well as other allegations that have not been charged. For those reasons, Your Honor, my comments will be brief. I have also advised Dr. Aejaz not to make any statements today to preserve the no contest plea. However, I understand the court will likely ask him that question, and Dr. Aejaz is prepared for that question as well. For the purpose of sentencing, Your Honor, it should be noted, as it was in the pre-sentence investigation report, that Dr. Aejaz did not have any prior contacts with the criminal justice system. This is his first contact. Although the charges and his convictions are serious in this case, Your Honor, it is the first time he's been charged or convicted of a criminal offense. Your Honor, Dr. Aejaz did plead no contest in this case. We are asking that the court abide by its Cobb's agreement for no consecutive sentencing.
Thank you. Mr. Aejaz, do you wish to make a statement before I impose sentence?
I defer to the constitutional lawyer.
All right, thank you. And before I do impose sentence, sir, I do want to indicate to you that this has been one of the more deplorable cases that I've had before me. The extent of your conduct, your criminal conduct, is just beyond words. I agree with everything that has been said by the victims and by the prosecution. You are a predator, you are a narcissist, and you are a sadist. That is quite clear, just reading this report. And I didn't even have the benefit of actually viewing the videos. So I can't comprehend how someone, a medical doctor, would do the things that you have done. And I can certainly understand the victim's situation in that they don't know who to trust anymore. If you can't trust someone who is supposed to be a helper, who can you trust? And what is even more disgusting in this case, sir, is that you did this with your own family. You did this with your own family. The child that you have been convicted of abusing was your brother's daughter. How low can anyone go? Not to mention patience. It's incomprehensible to me that there is a human being that could stoop to this level of conduct, sir. And you are not deserving of any title or any recognition. You have damaged so many lives, hurt so many people, and all I can do is put you in prison, sir. And I wish I could do more, but I can't. All right then, as it relates to the case ending in 2876FH. One count of child sexually abusive activity. This court is sentencing you to 12 to 20 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. With respect to count 2, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 12 to 20 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention 481 days of credit on both of those charges. With respect to count 3, capturing, distributing the image of unclothed person, this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 4, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 5, capturing, distributing an image of unclothed person, this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 6, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 7, capturing, distributing an image of unclothed person, this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 8, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 9, capturing, distributing an image of unclothed person, this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 10, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of jail credit. With respect to count 11, capturing, distributing an image of unclothed person, this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 12, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 13, capturing, distributing an image of unclothed person, this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to count 14, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 481 days of credit. With respect to case ending in 3405 FC, one count of criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, this court is sentencing you to 35 to 60 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 2, criminal sexual conduct in the second degree, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 3, child sexually abusive activity, aggravated, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 25 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 4, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 20 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 5, capturing, distributing an image of unclothed person, that this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 6, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 7, capturing, distributing image of unclothed person, this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 8, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 9, criminal sexual conduct in the second degree, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 10, child sexually abusive activity, aggravated, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 25 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 11, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 20 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 12, criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, this court is sentencing you to 35 to 60 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 13, criminal sexual conduct in the second degree, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 14, child sexually abusive activity, aggravated, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 25 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 15, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 10 to 25 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 16, capturing, distributing an image of unclothed person, this court is sentencing you to 3 to 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of credit. With respect to count 17, computers using to commit a crime, this court is sentencing you to 4 to 7 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with 419 days of jail credit. All counts in case ending in 2876FH are concurrent to each other. All counts in case ending in 3405FC are concurrent to each other, and each docket is concurrent to one another. You are to pay state costs of $952 in case ending in 2876FH and $1,156 in case ending in 340FC. And you are to pay the Crime Victims' Rights Fund $130 on each case. And the court has gone above the guidelines because the court feels that this individual is a predator beyond all belief, and this court feels that he would never amend his ways even after serving time with the Michigan Department of Corrections. Do not believe the guidelines take into account all of his insidious and hideous conduct that has affected so many people, and the guidelines do not justify or do justice to the sentence that he deserves. Will you acknowledge your client's receipt of his appellate rights form?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, was there something I missed?
You didn't
Oh,
finish
yes,
the
I'm sorry.
Soren left
Yes, I
electronic monitor.
apologize, I did miss. You are to register under the Sex Offender Registration Act. You are to have HIV testing. You are to have a lifetime electronic monitoring upon parole. You are to have STD testing. You are to have no contact or association with the victims, Oumair Aejaz, Shazia, Tassabum, Madison, Lucido, Dia, Thacker, Morgan St. Henry, and Lauren Devereaux. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, he does acknowledge receipt of the appellate rights. He did sign an initial.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thanks, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.